Thanks very much for joining us today. This is the Cinegy Air Pro 22.12 webinar, where we talk about the latest version of Cinegy Air Pro. Oops. So, the best playout software in the world just got better. Today's webinar is being presented by me, Andrew, and also by my colleague Simon Pilbeam, who is the product manager for the Air Suite, and who will be taking us through the new version himself and explaining what all of it's supposed to do. But in the beginning, just to get us rolling, I'll be doing a quick recap. I'm well aware that many of you out there are already familiar with Cinegy Air, and so I crave your patience while I do this. But for those who are new to Air, it's worth always explaining what it is there to do. So I'll be laying it out like this, talk about what it is, what it can do, what's in the package, and then Simon will take over for the new release. Say hello, Simon.
I was waiting for my moment to say hello and you sort of moved on, but hello everybody, and hopefully I'll be speaking to you in much more detail later on.
There we go. Okay, so let's rock. What is Cinegy Air Pro? It's an IT-based solution for broadcasting so that you can present perfect quality television to people without actually ever using old-fashioned legacy television equipment. All things like reliability, etc., are solved problems in IT. So we believe that this is the way that broadcast will be done in future, and indeed for many of our customers, they've already been doing it this way for a while. It uses a client-server architecture, as do all of our applications. This means that all of our systems can be scaled up to large sizes. And again, we have customers that have taken advantage of this. It means that if you need to extend your plant, simply add a server, which will be addressable from clients anywhere on your same network. It is out of the box extremely powerful already. But it also has the possibility of customizing its functionality in various ways, running it as a service instead of an application, for instance, combining it with scripts, and spreading it across different platforms. Of which spoken, the platforms that we support are physical, virtual, and cloud. On an application basis, we remain Windows based, but a physical server, a virtual server, or a cloud server will be able to run Cinegy software effortlessly. As an application or as a service, as mentioned in the customizable line there, this is running as a service, has all sorts of additional features, scripting, resource use, etc., etc. Scalable to hundreds of channels in a single installation. And again, we have customers doing this already. And it also supports RTP, UDP, SRT, NDI, and for those who must have it, SDI as well, even though, as we all say, SDI must die. And from here, using Cinegy Air, you can do linear playout, you can do gallery playout for production, and you can do encoding of incoming streams. Furthermore, any files that we get, as long as they are broadcast compliant, we can scale from the playlist to the playout without needing them to be transcoded or changed in any way. So, linear playout with branding is handled with Air Pro and also with Air Ultimate. Air Ultimate gives you the playout and the branding, and in addition, our new subtitling service. We've already talked about this before. There are people out there who are already using it, and it's kind of off the map for this presentation. I simply mentioned that it's there. We also have Studio Pro. This is a completely customizable interface which uses the playout engines rather than for linear broadcast as gallery players, old computer flavored video recorders, if you like, which can be used to inject video and combine it with live inputs, graphics, etc. For studio productions. This is intended for use with our news system, but it has capabilities far beyond that. Then we have the possibility of converting between SDI, NDI, and IP. Whichever comes in can come out in a different way. This is using the playout engine, but in its simplest form. It's not addressable by a direct interface. You simply set it up, tell it what's coming in where and how you want it out the other end, and that's it. Just leave it to run and it will run forever. And finally, it's worth mentioning again, without getting too deeply into it at this point, that the whole Cinegy playout system can be attached to a scheduler, a traffic system, via our Cinegy traffic gateway, which provides a parser that will take the output of traffic and turn it into playlists for our system. This is a far larger element than we can ever cover in a presentation like this. So I simply mention that it's there, and we can always talk to you about it if you need it. So the elements in the package, the bits in the box, are Cinegy Air Control, which is the interface to the playout engine that handles playlist automation and allows for manual supervision of the playout. There is the Cinegy Air Playlist Editor. Our playlists have a format based around programs, blocks, and items. This allows you to create program elements that would be in the TV guide, and then underneath that assemble the actual transmission from file pieces, from etc., and put these into separate blocks. The advertising blocks can be triggered, and all of this can be built in the playlist editor and previewed in a player, which behaves the same way as the playout player itself. So it makes it possible to QC sources coming in, files coming in, which may not have been viewed already. Simply put it into the playlist editor and preview it in the player. If the player doesn't like it, playout and Air won't like it either. Cinegy Studio Control, as mentioned, this is a completely customizable interface that drives the engines directly, switching them on and off. You can load videos into the players and queue them up and set them to run on instructions from producers or directors or whatever. It will run news playlists from our news system, or news rundowns from our news system. And it gives you access to all the elements that you would need to make an interesting and lively television program. And then we have Cinegy Title. Note, not Titler anymore. The inconsistency of the old name was noted, and so it is now Cinegy Title. Branding with graphics, text, audio, variables, and dynamic data. You can build arresting graphics using the system, and you can play those graphics as secondary events from the playlist in the traditional style. You can also build bumpers in Title, because Title supports video and audio as well, that you can put into the playlist as primary items, loops and fillers and so on and so forth. Dynamic data can be is supported, so that with a little bit of coding, you can scrape your favorite weather site, news site, financial site, and create text crawlers and information from external sources. So very flexible. And the already mentioned Cinegy Encode, since I already told you what it does, really no need to mention it anymore. And then the Cinegy Event Manager. The Event Manager is what allows our broadcast system to talk to legacy broadcast hardware. It also talks to our other applications as required, and it will even talk to scripts or trigger scripts. And if you can write a script, to do something and have it triggered by an event, then you can do almost anything. So the whole package together provides a large number of different tools, but they're all based around the core Cinegy playout engine, which has proved itself time and time again. And so what the new release has to offer, well, for that, I'm going to hand over to Simon, and Simon will take us through point by point, he will.
Let's try that. Are you seeing that full screen?
That's it, yes.
Cool, lovely. Right, I can lose my other versions that are running underneath that. Hello, everyone. As promised, we're going to take a quick look then at what's in the new release. And firstly, you're going to start to see lots of nice new shiny icons, which will tell you you're actually running a new version of Air. They still have the same color scheme. So if you're not familiar with our color schemes, then we tend to band all of our products together in different colors. So we've got orange for archive and management, MAM systems and things, red for capture, green for convert, yellow for our online tools like multi-viewer,
the IP tools, we used to call
IP
those.
tools is the word I was looking for. Thank you. And then blue would be our playout and automation system code. So if you're looking for an application, you'll still be able to look for it in the blue, but you'll see it has a nice new shiny splash screen. That's not really earth-shattering, it just is there. One of the first things we decided to add into this was to make it compatible with the fact that you can save the engine configuration, the playout engine configuration as an XML. You can now save the air control layout and configuration as an XML as well, which allows you to very quickly deploy from images that you've saved on a network somewhere. So you can very quickly bring up the configuration of a new control panel, just the same as you can bring up the same configuration as an engine. So that's a big improvement. Previously, that was a little bit more cumbersome, but it's now available as XML. We have a new option within the playlist configurator to hold the last frame on signal loss. So what you do in the occasion of losing a signal or losing a couple of frames of a signal, for instance, you can decide whether you want it to go to black or bars, or whether you just want it to freeze. So a lot of people said we'd rather have a frozen picture than no picture, or a faulty picture. So let's hold the last frame on signal loss, and I can illustrate that later on, hopefully. But nevertheless, it's calculated in milliseconds, so you can type in as many frames as you'd like to keep. If you type in a 0, it'll keep however many frames you need until your signal is recovered. So it is completely flexible. You can decide to leave it for a couple of frames or leave it for eternity if you wish to be in that state. It's completely controllable from there. One of the big elements that we've included, and this is why, for those of you who had an RC version of Air 22.12, you'll have noticed that the numbering system for Cinegy has changed. So 22.12 means it was created in the 12th month of the year 22. So that's when we started this, and we released it just before Christmas as an RC candidate, but it didn't have Kantar media in it. And this is when one of our partners over in Eastern Europe needed Kantar watermarking. For those of you who don't know what Kantar is, it's like Nielsen, but it's more popular over here in Europe than Nielsen, certainly. And they needed this in order to win a large contract. And they had the services of our professional services team, which is a thing worth talking about very briefly here. Is I'm also, apart from being the product manager of Air, I'm also part of that professional services team based in the UK here. And we were commissioned to add this in, and we managed to get this within, well, over the Christmas period. and pretty quickly thereafter. So as far as things moving went, it went very well indeed, and was a great asset to both our partners and customers, obviously. And we now have Kantar media in the actual release, the full release, not the release candidate. And I'll be showing you a little bit of that soon. Other things that are important to our clients these days are HDR. Now, HDR keeps changing all the time and keeps being added to and keeps having new versions. So we're making this as flexible as possible, and it's still ongoing. But in our initial stages, you could have HDR, but you had to be fully HDR through the program chain. So you'd have to have HDR coming in, HDR playlist, HDR going out. Now you can mix and match. You can have an HDR channel, but you can mix that with non-HDR content. And if you wish to apply a look or a LUT to that, to make it look the same way, but you can also take through any data that comes with the HDR signals on its way through with the HDR file that has a data attached to it, so which will apply all of its own LUTs itself. So you can either choose per item in the playlist to add significant LUTs, or you can just let it go through as it was. If it doesn't require that because it's already carrying that data, then you can let that happen on its own. And I'll show you a little bit about that in a moment. We've made some improvements to our player windows. So you can now, Andrew was talking about QC. Obviously, our QC is not automated QC, it's a manual QC, but it allows you to preview an entire playlist, if you wish, beforehand on an independent player. And that independent player can now output to more items, more input-output cards than it used to be able to. So you can output that to, dare I say it, SDI, and have it on a full glass screen to look at quality monitoring as you would expect to see it in a QC area. So that's a new addition to bring it back up to where it was before we moved to 64-bit in our engine, where we lost a couple of things in there, and we've added even more elements to that. So there's a nice list of output options available in there. We also added Rosstalk protocol, which is the protocol they use for their Rosstalk switcher and routers and things. So that now exists within the drop down of the event manager. You can pull out secondary events and event manager or whatever it is you wish to do, and it's already in there as a predefined set of actions that you can take. We've also made the audio matrix and the CG settings global, so we can access a centrally held set of audio matrices and CGs without having to recreate them each time. You can just point at a global setting should you wish to, which is one of the improvements we've made along here. And obviously, as Andrew spoiled my thunder a little, we're no longer calling Titler Titler, we're now calling it Title, just to confuse the hell out of everybody. Having gone
I didn't
from
tell him why, Simon. You can explain why.
Having gone from type to titler, we've now gone to title, because titler is a verb and title is a noun. So we have air, which is a noun, and title, which is also a noun. So it's a non-verb now. So that's the main reason we're changing all of our elements to be nouns, so they all line up together nicely. Along with that new title comes a new product manager called Burak, who, excuse me, I'm just going to cough a little. I'm just recovering from a cold. I'm surviving wonderfully, but occasionally my throat does give in. I apologize. So Burak has come on board as a dedicated member of the team now. He's also a member of our PS team and is currently engaged with one of our partners on a paid-for engagement, creating graphics for a Middle Eastern television company. So another string to the Cinegy bow. You can commission us pay for us to do the work that you don't have the manpower or maybe the knowledge to do. So that will speed things up for a reasonable fee. That's what Burak is going to do. I will now demonstrate the features, it says here. Okay, excellent. So let's just come out of that. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you where the Kantar stuff is. So excuse me. You might just be able to see down the bottom those new icons I was talking about. If I highlight them down there, you'll see what I mean. Those are the new Air icons, not that much dissimilar to the old ones, but nice and shiny new. Let me start with the first one. So if I open up the configurator for an Air engine, so this is the playout side of it, I said it's got this hold last good frame on input signal. That's where you will find that in the engine itself, and you can add a 0 there. So if something, well, not 90, I don't want 90, I just want a 0. Excuse me, once more. That will take that, and once I press OK, I can restart that engine and that will be taken. But also what I was going to show you more importantly is the new Kantar entitlement. So this is within the audio tab. We can go to the output side of that, and this is where you would find all of the settings for things like loudness, Nielsen that was there before, or Nielsen CBET, and now Kantar down the bottom here. And Kantar will require from you a channel name. When they get that channel name and you send them their reference file requests, which is all this literature is available for you. I can show you that in a moment. You will get back from them a license, a .lic file, and an audience, a .org file, which you can place where you like, but those are the files from Kantar, which will tell Kantar that you are licensed. Oh, dear me, sorry. That also, though, requires now a Cinegy license as well. So this is not a free implementation. We actually make a charge for the Kantar feature because it needs maintaining. Really, on our side, we have to, every new version we have to reassess and recertify with Kantar themselves. So we're making a charge for that, a little like we do with loudness, but loudness you buy the whole thing from Linear Acoustics, and then you're underway. You don't have to pay that again. This will be an annual subscription though, the Kantar one, so you'll pay for an annual license on there. Be very careful, because as you just saw, if you tick it and you have a license, fine. If you tick it and you don't have a license, that will prevent your engine starting, much the same as loudness does. If you've ever tried our loudness plugin from Linear Acoustics, that does the same thing. If you tick that loudness box and you don't have a license, your engine will fail to start when you try to start it. Okay, but that's where the Kantar stuff is. If you need to see it, then Cinegy, open.cinegy.com. You've got in under audio, under the Cinegy playout section, under audio itself, you have all the Kantar watermarking stuff, which is all written up there for you. It's a very small section. It'll take you at least a minute and a half to read that, and that's about it. And it tells you exactly what you need to do to get your license and where to put it. And if you need help still, then by all means come back and ask us. I'm now almost a Kantar expert. I've spent months getting this thing going, so I know a lot about it. But that's on open.cinegy. If for those of you who have not come across open.cinegy, highly useful. So if I drop back into this and keep going back, there we go. That's the opening page of Cinegy, and it has all of our products on it, along with all of our manuals. User manuals are under each set for title, for Air at the top here, for capture, for archive, for whatever it is you need to do. So it's an open source. You don't need to register for it, you just need to go to it. So that's a very useful resource. Anyway, back to the full plan. What else have I got? So if you've not seen Air before, I just opened up on a different screen. There we go. This is the Air control that Andrew was talking about. So this is the control client. In here, you will see some minor changes should you come across them, but there's all sorts of influential customer-led changes that are just very subtle in blocks and areas like that, and then the way we account for things. The same with Studio. There are some new elements in there, but fundamentally it's the same as it always was, with the addition of this new dynamic range part here. So this is where you would find the ability to drop down to, at the moment, 709 or HLG for HDR. As more and more specs and resolutions come online, then we'll be adding more to that. But you can choose to be none, you can choose to add a 709 look to an item on a per item basis. And obviously this can be scripted in your traffic as you go in, so you don't have to do this manually. But if you wish to go in and change something manually because it's looking really terrible with that one, you can actually put nothing on there and let it go out originally if you wish to. If you do nothing and it has data included with it to drive those features, then they will go on air automatically anyway. They'll pass through the engine and the engine will take those on board. You don't need to have those selected, but those are an optional extra selection if you want to add other things, if you're upscaling to HDR from standard definition. Remember, HDR will work with HD as well as higher resolutions of 4K and the like, so you can still work with your HD sources and give them the same look, as it were, on the end. That was what I wanted to show you on that one. This leaves me with Titler, which is one of these, that one. And yes, that's opened on the wrong screen as well. There we go. Oh, thank you, Windows. Trying to resize everything for me. So I've got a handy slide here, which isn't a slide, it's actually the surface of Cinegy Title, the new look titler. And it has some of the new features in. So here we've got one feature where I've got text more and more Simon. Okay, so if I now add to that and start to type in, oh, it's not going to do it for me, you rotten dog. Yeah, there we go. You can see that the background is coming with the letters. So it's expanding the letters for me as I go. And with that, we've got a whole new system called AutoFit in here, which you can find alongside the text. We've also got down here the ability to add in a background to the element. So if I slice that element or swipe over that element there, I can now choose the background color to that box, and anything else I write in there. Simon again, there we go. Will write out, I can still expand that and it'll keep that background behind it. Nice little features. One of the ones that impressed Andrew mostly, I don't quite know why, but obviously he's been waiting for this for a long time, is the ability to have rounded corners on our plates. So down here in the plate, you've now got an extra element called corners. We can then go into the corner itself and expand or contract those corners down. Top left is not doing a lot. That's because I'm not in top left. It's not going to come a long way. But I'd be able to control the whole area around that. And you can even now make a circle out of that. If you make a square plate and then round off the corners, you get a circle. The other things you can do down here, there's some additions on Title where at the moment we've got the solid background, but if it's difficult to see against the solid background, you can put in a hash background, or you can just look at the alpha channels if you want. So we've now got some new views down here, which you might press on accidentally and wonder why your whole view has suddenly lost everything. It's probably because you're looking at the alpha channel. Just at the flick of a switch, as it were, down here. We can also move around the the canvas itself to see things starting off canvas or go back onto the canvas. So this little button here will move you around the canvases themselves. And that's some nice, neat little tricks. There's far more in there, and there's far more coming. Now that Barack has taken control of this, he's busy making these things fit people's needs rather than just be a complete replacement for what we used to do in the old days called type. You can also tile graphics behind here. If your graphics picture isn't big enough, you can have multiples of them to form a wallpaper in effect of pictures if you wish to. That's another new feature in there. All of these are covered in the open release notes and the open manual, so you feel free to go and have a play with those and open up the manual if you don't have the software. If you do have the software, open up the manual because it's very useful as well. And that's pretty much where we are. There are lots of the usual upgrades to codecs and new media libraries and things that are all included, but that's the boring stuff. Of course, you'd expect that to happen. So we brought everything up to date as much as possible. There are many and glorious things on their way. We're busy building all sorts of cloud-based areas as well, which is something to watch out for and something to ask about probably at NAB for those of you who are going to NAB. And remember, there will be people at NAB who can demonstrate all of these things. So if something has grabbed your attention, you think, oh, that's really useful, I must find out about that. Go along and see them at NAB. Right, I need to get my PowerPoint back. There we go. 1 second. Excellent. So I think I invented all of those. Yes, I did. So, Andrew, I can bring you back in at this point.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Simon. You said all that far, far better than I could ever have done. And also got right into the corners there where, because of course you've been working on this for most of your life, and I only get to see the fruits of it at the end. So that was it for today's webinar. Thank you very much for joining us. There is a chat button. You should be able to put a question in the chat if you like. If not, then please also send us a mail on sales@cinegy.com, and either we can answer it directly or we can get somebody to answer it who knows what they're talking about. And for the rest, we'll be along next month with something else. But for now, thank you very much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll see you at the next one. Oh, hello, I have a question. How can you pull Twitter data and show it on title, but can't show the same tweet more than once? Parimal from ABS. We'll take that one offline. Or do you have an answer for that, Simon?
I don't. You know, my expertise in graphics are renowned.
This is one of those, we know the man who does. This is for the.
This will be a Burak.
Burak, yes. I mean, Burak will answer this in at the drop of a hat. So, Parimal, we got the question, and we will get you an answer. But unfortunately, the two of us here aren't in a position to answer it. Sorry about that. Okay. I can't
do remember that next month is NAB, so go along to NAB. Yes. You can meet people and ask them directly these crazy questions.
I mean, I'll be there, so don't ask me because I won't know there either. I'm joking, of course. If Burak answers this, then I will know. But yeah, okay, yes, thank you very much. See you at the next one. Have a good afternoon.
Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.